Welcome to Study Simple CBSE. Today let's look at the line-by-line explanation of the chapter A Letter to God. If you are watching this video for the first time, please consider subscribing. Now let's start the video. A Letter to God by G.L. Fuentes. About the author. Gregorio Lopez y Fuentes was a Mexican novelist, poet and journalist. He was one of the leading chroniclers of the Mexican Revolution. He has written many books including La Seringa de Cristal, Claros de Silva, El Vagabundo, El Alma del Poblaco, and many more. He was awarded the National Prize of Arts and Science in 1935. The Letter to God has a very beautiful moral or theme, and that is, extreme faith in God may give you a ray of hope even in the darkest of times. So what's the meaning of faith? Faith means strong belief. So extreme faith in God, which means extreme belief in God, may give you a ray of hope, may give you a slight chance of a positive thing, which is hope, even in the darkest times. So what are the darkest times? It is the bad situations or the worst situations. So if you have faith in God, it will help you come out of the worst situations in your life. So this is the moral of the story, A Letter to God. Now let's start the chapter. The house, the only one in the entire valley, sat on the crest of a low hill. From this height, one could see the river and the field of ripe corn dotted with the flowers that always promised a good harvest. The only thing the earth needed was a downpour, or at least a shower. So here the writer says that there was a house, and that was the only house which was present in the entire or whole valley. And this house was located on the crest of a low hill. What is crest? Crest means top. It was located on the top of a low hill. So from this height he says that we could see the vast field of ripe corn and the broad river which always promised a good harvest. And these ripe corn were dotted with flowers. What is dotted? Scattered. They were scattered with flowers. Here he is saying that he was expecting a good harvest and the only thing needed was a downpour, or at least a shower. What is a downpour? Downpour is a rain. He needed rain, or at least a little bit of rain, which is called as a shower. So here he was expecting a little bit of rain for his good harvest. So from this paragraph we can learn that there was a house on the top of a low hill. It was the only house in the entire valley, and from this house you could see the entire field of ripe corn and the river, and the flowers of the ripe corn were scattered among the field, and the only thing he needed was some rain for a good harvest. Throughout the morning, Lencho, who knew his fields intimately, had done nothing else but see the sky towards the northeast. Now we are really going to get some water, woman. The woman who was preparing supper replied, Yes, God willing. The older boys were working in the field while the smaller ones were playing near the house, until the woman called to them all, Come for dinner. Throughout the morning, Lencho, so Lencho is the farmer here, who knew his fields intimately. Intimately means very clearly or very perfectly. He knew every corner of his field thoroughly. So for the whole day he did nothing else but look at the sky towards the northeast. It was because he was expecting some downpour or some amount of rain so that he could get some good harvest. Now we are really going to get some water, woman. He is calling out to his wife as woman. He is addressing his wife as woman. So he is saying her that now they are really expecting to get some rain. The woman was preparing supper. What is supper? The meal which you have at night. She was preparing supper and she replied, Yes, God willing, which means that if the God wills, yes, we will get some amount of rain. So they had children and the older boys were working in the field. What were the older boys doing? They were working in the field, while the younger ones were playing near the house. Until the woman called to them all, Come for dinner. So the older ones were working in the field while the younger ones were playing near the house. And then their mother called to them, Come for dinner. It was during the meal that, just as Lencho had predicted, big drops of rain began to fall. In the northeast, huge mountains of clouds could be seen approaching. The air was fresh and sweet. The man went out for no reason than to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body, and when he returned he exclaimed, These aren't raindrops falling from the sky. they are new coins. So here we can see that during their meal, big drops of rain began to fall just as Lencho has predicted. So Lencho had foreseen the future that it would rain, and during their meal, big drops of rain began to fall. So in the northeast, we know that he was looking at the northeast. Huge mountains of clouds could be seen approaching. So from the northeast, huge clouds started approaching towards his fields. The air was fresh and sweet. So we know how the air smells when we are about to have rain. It will be sweet and it will be very fresh. The man went out for no reason than to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body. So Lencho went out so that he could have the pleasure of the rain falling on his body. As soon as he saw while having his meal that big drops of rain were falling, he went out to feel the pleasure of them. Because he was so happy that if he gets a good rain, then he would eventually get a very good harvest. And when he returned, he exclaimed. So he went out into the rain, had some of the rain, and when he came back, he exclaimed that. And what is exclaimed? Exclaimed is shouting out due to joy. So he said that these aren't raindrops falling from the sky, they are new coins. So he said to his family that they are not raindrops which are falling from the sky, but they are new coins. And why did he call them as new coins? Because he got a good rain, and this good rain could result in a very good harvest, which would help him make a lot of money. So he exclaims that these aren't raindrops, but they're new coins. The big drops are 10-cent pieces and the little ones are 5s. So he says that the big drops which are falling from the sky are equivalent to 10 cents, while the little ones are equal to 5 cents. With a satisfied expression, he regarded the field of ripe corn with its flowers draped in a curtain of rain. So, with a satisfied expression, why was he satisfied? Because he was expecting some good rain for a good harvest, and he did receive the good rain. So, with satisfaction, he was looking at his field with ripe corn and its flowers scattered with a curtain of rain, which was covered in a curtain of rain. But suddenly, a strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, very large hailstones began to fall. These truly did resemble new silver coins. But suddenly everything changed because he was very satisfied when rain fell on his field, but now suddenly a very strong wind began to blow. What he wanted was a little bit of rain, but now there was a very strong wind which began to blow. So along with the strong wind, very large hailstones began to fall. So what are hailstones? They are like stones of ice. They are pieces of ice which fall to the ground as stones. And it did resemble new silver coins because the hailstones were looking like silver coins. The boys, exposing themselves to the rain, ran out to collect the frozen pearls. So the children, exposing themselves into the rain, ran out into the rain to collect the frozen pearls. The frozen pearls are the hailstones which were falling from the sky. So the frozen pearls is compared to hailstones. "It's really getting bad now," exclaimed the man. So Lencho, at first he was very satisfied since there was a very good rain on his cornfield. But then when he saw the hailstones falling from the sky, he was starting to get worried. So he exclaims that it's getting really bad now. I hope it passes quickly. So he hopes. What is hope? It's a belief. So he's believing that it passes quickly. What passes quickly? The pouring of hailstones. And the damage on his crops would be less. It did not pass quickly, which means that the hailstones did not stop after a short period of time. For an hour, the hail rained on the house, the garden, the hillside, the cornfield, on the whole valley. So the hailstones started falling for almost an hour. The hail rained on his house, the garden, hillside, cornfield, and on the whole valley. So imagine, the whole valley was covered with hailstones. The field was white as if it was covered with salt. Not a leaf remained on the trees. So he's saying that the whole field was completely white. It looked as white as if it was covered with salt, but it was actually covered with hailstones. Not a leaf remained on the trees. So the situation was so bad that not a single leaf was on the trees. The corn was also totally destroyed. The flowers were gone from the plants, and the flowers were also gone due to the hailstones. Lencho's soul was filled with sadness. So he's feeling very sad since he was expecting some amount of rain and a good harvest, but now, due to the hailstones, everything is destroyed. When the storm had passed, he stood in the middle of the field and said to his sons, "A plague of locusts would have left more than this." So, after the storm had finished, in the middle of the field, when he was looking at his sons, he said to them, "A plague of locusts would have left more than this." So, he says that even if there was a plague of locusts, so what is a locust? Locust is an insect which is very harmful for the plants. It looks like a grasshopper. He's saying that even if a large amount of locusts had arrived, even then it would have left some of the crops. But the hailstone has not left any of it. The hail has left nothing. This year we will have no corn. So he's saying to his son that the hailstones has left nothing. Even a plague of locusts would have left something. This year we will have no corn. That night was a sorrowful one. So he's saying that that night was a very sad night for him, since he could sell nothing as all the crops were destroyed, so he would get no money. All our work for nothing. So he's also feeling sad that they had put so much of hard work into the field for the corn crops, but now, due to the hailstones, there is nothing left in the field. There's no one who can help us. He's also feeling that there is no one who can help them in this situation where they have no crop left, so they'll not be able to sell anything and they'll have no money. We'll all go hungry this year. He's saying to his family that they will all go hungry this year since they have no money to buy anything. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope: help from God. But then, in the middle of all this sorrowness, in the hearts of all those who lived in the solitary house, what is solitary house? A lone house. There was only one single hope left. And what was that hope? The hope was the help from God. So Lencho and his family were hoping for help from God. Don't be so upset. Even though this seems like a total loss, remember, no one dies of hunger. That's what they say. No one dies of hunger. All through the night, Lencho thought only of one hope: the help of God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. So Lencho was very sad, and that's when his wife consoles him that don't be so upset. Even though this seems like a total loss, remember, no one dies of hunger. So she's saying that even though this seems like a total loss, which is they've lost all their corns now, but still remember that no one dies of hunger, that nobody will die of hunger. She also still has a ray of hope, that is God. And he also agrees that that's what they say, no one dies of hunger. And throughout the night, Lencho only had one thing in his mind, that is the help of God. Because he had extreme faith in God and he believed that God will help him in one way or the other. So he believed that the God's eyes will look at everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. So he's saying that whatever is happening, God is aware of everything. So he believes that God will surely help him to come out of this situation. So this is the amount of faith which he had in God. We'll continue the remaining part of the chapter in the next video. Thanks for watching.